Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be exploring today how to build a Datavault at speed. It's an incredibly important question to answer. Got a very, very fast-paced industry here. So having a reliable data solution, it's not just beneficial, it's indispensable, really. Just a little bit about me. My name is Francesco Longoni. I'm a consultant data engineer at Datavault. Got a background in physics. I graduated from the University of Southampton in the UK, and I'm a Datavault 2.0 qualified practitioner. Let's get right to it. I mean, the main question I'm trying to answer essentially is, when someone asks you, do you want it done fast or do you want it done right? The answer is both. So let's try and figure out how that is actually possible in the most structured possible way. So just to start with the basics, why do we need speed? Having a faster insight than your competitor is just simply an advantage. You need to be responding to changing business requirements as quickly as possible. It's incredibly important to have timely decision making, and most importantly, everyone hates waiting. So if we can get the answers to where they need to be as quickly as possible, that's just a bonus. And on the other side of the coin is quality. If you cannot be confident in your results, they have absolutely no value. You need to be able to say that these are true because I've done A, B, and C. And we'll go through what A, B, and C means. Having consistently accurate results builds trust in your data and your team, with your stakeholders, with your colleagues, etc. And it will also just avoid having to rework the same problem over and over if you can get it right the first time. Again, most importantly, nobody wants to be wrong. Everyone wants to be right all the time. So how do we balance these? Businesses want solutions as quickly as possible. We want to get them the right solutions. They obviously want the right solutions as well. There's a balancing act that's very, very difficult to get right. So we'll go through a couple of ways where you can make that easier for yourself. And the first one really is just starting with the right foundations. You need, at the start of a project, to have clear business requirements. You need to know what the final product is going to be, who will use it, and how they will use it. If you've got these three questions well-defined and documented, you're already off to a great start. You also need to know, how are you going to measure the success of your project? These need to be concrete measurements that you can refer back to, not just at the end of your project, but throughout. Helping with this is having a narrow and focused scope. Dive into what that means exactly in a moment. But yeah, as long as you, the shareholders, the stakeholders, the project manager, the engineers, the modelers, everyone needs to be on the same page as to what we're trying to achieve in the project right from the get-go. And everyone needs to be on the same page throughout. So having a focused scope, the main advantage is that you just you keep the team on track. You're trying to answer one question or a variety of questions, and you do what needs to be done to answer that question and nothing more. Trim the fat around the edges from the get-go, from day one. It also helps to manage risk by identifying problems as quickly as possible. It makes it so that you don't build anything unnecessary, so you deliver as quickly as you possibly can. It also means that the entire team is focused on fewer things. It means that all of them know exactly what the problems are more focused in solving those exact problems, the ones that are actually going to have business value, and you're not going to waste any resources on any unnecessary features. As I mentioned before, this needs to be documented from the get-go and needs to be documented throughout. It's very, very important that everyone has access to it, that everyone is on the same page right from the get-go. Now we move on to how you're going to actually work throughout the project. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Agile methodology, mainly because I quite like it. It's by no means the only methodology that you can use. I think it works very, very well with Datavault, and so do many of my colleagues. But the main reason for that is because it follows these four principles, or these are some of the principles it follows, which is an incremental delivery, start small, grow from there. Datavault is very well suited to doing that. Having frequent feedback loops. This is so important. I'm gonna go back to this point over and over again throughout the presentation, because it is so important to have frequent feedback loops in the Agile methodology. This is through demos and this is through sprint retros. They need to be done frequently and consistently, and everyone needs to be given an opportunity to speak and to communicate what they need to communicate during these meetings. It also helps prioritize any high value areas, ones that are actually going to be achievable in whatever time frame you have set, and that are going to deliver business value as quickly as possible. And the constant meetings are going to help with communication between teams and collaboration. Everyone is one massive brain pool solving the same problems. And I said it suits really nicely with Datavault, I think. But it's not about just picking Agile because I say it works well. It's about choosing the right method, whatever that may be, or to mix and match between different methods. Every single project, every single team will have different requirements, and therefore the right methodology should be decided and structured from the get-go, so that everyone can work as efficiently as possible and deliver the project as quickly as possible with as few mistakes as possible. Just wanted to show you guys a Gantt chart. Now, obviously, this isn't a very Agile way of structuring things, but within each of these, I don't know if you can see my cursor, each of these blocks within that it's Agile. This is an example of a project I worked with a client last year, where we structured this from the get-go, saying we think this will take X amount of time to design the role vault, to define the business requirements, build the role vault, and so on and so on. Now, what I wanted to point out here is how much time we dedicated, and this is a project we actually completed, and we did last year, to the design of the role vault and the definition of the business rules, and how much of the work is upfront in the first 4 weeks. It is really important to get the planning right, and I'll dive into that as we go on. But it is so important to spend the time right at the beginning, as we did in this project, to be able to deliver the project in the correct time frame. Now, this didn't actually remain exactly as this was throughout the entire project. As we worked, we realized that it had slightly different requirements than we anticipated. So this did evolve through time. This was something we did before the project even began. And that's the other thing with Agile, going back and changing things that need to be changed. Now, modeling your data vault. It is so important not to rush the modeling. It is you need to spend enough time and iterate enough times so that your model is correct and will actually solve your issues that you're having. Solid modeling will avoid a lot of headaches down the line, such as scalability, lack of quality, inefficiencies, and so on. It's also very important to include the entire team. Collaboration in modeling your data vault is crucial. You need people that are experienced in modeling themselves and know data vault as a tool, as a methodology. You need people who understand the business and can explain not just the data to you, but how the business is structured. No model is entirely static. I've already touched on this point. You need to iterate on it, and that just takes time. Can't really do it in one day. You have to have a meeting one day, go back, think about it, design a model, go back, review with everyone on the team, and iterate until everyone is happy that the model is good. Then you can start building, and it will likely still change in the end, even if you spend all that time. But it is so important to get the basics right from the beginning, and to stick to proven data vault principles. Data vault solves a lot of very complicated problems, and it is, if you do not use the data vault methodology and the proven principles, it's not guaranteed that those problems will be solved. Data vault won't work for you if you don't follow the data vault pattern. It's very important to get that right from the get-go. Automation. Choosing the right tool is gonna help you both in the quality and the speed, really. Having the right tool is a game changer. It will reduce any human error. If you set it up properly, at least, it will increase quality by having automated tests or automated models, or just pointing out when things are going wrong. It's important to choose carefully. And as I said before, no two projects are the same. You need to choose a tool that will handle your specific needs. You sit down, you need to figure out what do I need a tool to do? What are some areas that are slow in the current development process and can be improved? And then you can go out and figure out what tool is right for you. It is very important, as with everything I'm saying today, to spend the time to pick the right option for yourself. Reach out a lot. Some tools offer some free trials. And you need to look past the marketing on the pretty website and get your hands dirty and figure out in the docs, trying yourself, figuring out, is this actually the right tool for you? Having the wrong tool for the job is just going to be a waste of money and time, will likely lead in a lower quality product. So engage throughout, make sure that more than one person is evaluating these tools as well. It's important for the development team and the stakeholders to understand what money is being spent on, what resources are being spent on, and if this will actually lead to a faster development or to a higher quality product at the end. Testing. Super important. There is no quality without tests. If you do not test, you cannot be certain that whatever you are delivering at the end will be correct. It is the only way to guarantee quality. A well-designed testing strategy will go a long way. You need to have that thought out again from the get-go. A lot of planning is what I'm talking about. Essentially, my entire presentation comes down to plan properly and spend a lot of time planning. Using the right tool, I just mentioned as the automation. If your tests are automated and you can build a model and the whatever automation tool you're using can check if everything is all right, it's going to save you a lot of time. And the crux of the issue with testing is that it's a short-term gain of speed by not testing is absolutely not worth a long-term loss in quality, because you have absolutely no idea, if you don't test properly, whether your data is correct or not. Just diving into some of the testing regimens that you can use. Unit testing and integration testing. These very much vary depending on your definition, what you're actually trying to test. Both should be used depending on how your project is structured. End-to-end testing is also incredibly important. That is when you feed data all the way through the process from start to end, and you see that what comes out is exactly what you expect depending on what data you put in. And UAT. This UAT is a massive component of the feedback loops I was talking about earlier. UAT cannot just be at the end of the project in the last day when you finish coding everything. It needs to be as quickly as you possibly can throughout the development process. If you can get feedback 2 weeks before the end of the project and you realize something is wrong, it's going to save you so much time, so much money, so many resources than if you learn about something that's wrong or some misalignment with stakeholders 2 weeks later. It is so important to have UAT as quickly as you possibly can. It's another way to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that you receive critical feedback as quickly as possible. I also wanted to touch on a concept I think is very important, which is whoever develops the model, anything, should be the one that tests it, and whoever is testing anything should have the ability to fix it themselves. If you have the maybe slightly antiquated idea of a development team and a testing team, that communication between the two is just an unnecessary step you really don't need. If the testing team, or they can't fix even a very simple fixed problem, that's frustrating to them. The development team, all they're hearing is from the testing team is everything is wrong. They have no ability to test themselves. If that is combined into one single person, a unified role, that's going to speed up your delivery immensely. by just avoiding that complication of having two separate teams, or having someone test something, but then they can't fix it. They have to go back and back and back and back and back and forth. It just creates complexity for absolutely no reason. Get rid of the complexity when you can. Every single test you do should be considered and deliberate. There's no point in testing everything all the time, even though that would be great, but it's a waste of resources. It's a waste of time. You don't need to run all your tests in prod as long as you run them in develop. As long as you're confident that all the unit tests pass properly in develop, you don't need to run all of them in prod. It's about a considered approach that tests what needs to be tested when it needs to be tested. No more, absolutely no less. And yeah, prioritizing also tests depending on the direct impact that they have on quality. Ineffective testing practices are gonna lose you a lot of time. It should be very considered, should be planned, as with everything I'm saying in this presentation. Documentation. Documentation is an investment. It will pay off, and it will pay for itself in no time. With every single question it prevents, or every single question it answers without having to disturb someone who could be very, very busy. You should document as you build. Part of the building process needs to be the documentation. And it's important to know that's not just what you put in the wiki. That's also how well you structure your code. As I was saying, document as you build. Documentation isn't just got what goes in the wiki, in your DevOps or Jira or whatever, or your loop. It is how you structure things. It is your tests. It is the comments you write in the code. It is your Git repository. Is it well structured? It is your DevOps environment. Are the tickets sorted in the correct manner? Are they assigned? Are there descriptions to it? All that is incredibly important for everyone to understand what's going on at all times in the present and a year in the future. And as you develop, as you're documenting, which is the same thing, you need to ask yourself, if someone new joined tomorrow and you could not help them understand anything, will they be able to find the information out as to what has been built, what is being built, what will be built, why are you spending all this time, and how are you building this? If those 5 questions can always be answered fairly easily and accessibly by anyone, that is excellent documentation. You should keep that up. Yeah, this documentation should also just be easily accessible and easy to maintain. If a document is out of sight for any extended period of time, or any time at all, it is likely going to be out of date. A developer shouldn't be stalled trying to figure out how exactly they should edit the document. They should just be able to go in and do it. And I'm massively in favor for versioning controls, your doc, especially your wiki. I think that's a fantastic extra information. It makes it easier to, it's also just easier peace of mind knowing that if you accidentally delete something or if you overwrite something, you can just go back to the previous version. I find that fantastic. I heavily recommend everyone version control your docs with any of the many tools that are out there. It's important to know about documentation as well as your target audience. Who are you speaking to? Is this someone who is technical? Is someone not technical? What are they interested in? What do they actually need to know? That is very important. And that also comes with planning and having a good wiki structure from the get-go. Whatever you use to maintain your documentation, it needs to be structured. It needs to be well thought out. Yeah, I wanted to also quickly touch on change. I have yet to be a part of a project that hasn't changed in some minor or major way halfway through. You need to be ready for that. You need to be able to track that change. You need to be able to communicate effectively what that change is and why. This goes back to the feedback loops. The quicker you can make a required change, the better. It means you can react quickly, your project is responsive, your team is agile. Yes, so these frequent feedback loop demos, sprint reviews, UAT, which isn't written there. And it's important to constantly prioritize whatever methodology you're doing. Get the quick wins first. Maintain the momentum at all costs. It is so important that the project doesn't get stalled out, that you keep getting these quick wins and that you spend time when necessary, doing those high effort but high value things. Absolutely avoid low value and high effort tasks. They're going to bring you absolutely no value for a lot of work. And communicate. Everyone should always understand the next steps. And yeah, as I said, audit trail, version controls in everything you do, in all the documentation, in all your code, is really going to help you out. I wanted to touch on when to push back. When something's not going right in a project, when do you need to escalate? When do you just need some clarification? And I want to stress that pushing back whenever necessary protects the project. It does not hinder it in any way. Proper project management should include having non-negotiables. And these, as with everything I've said, need to be properly defined right from the beginning. It needs to have for example, I've got some examples here, minimum tests, minimum docs, I need to say. And when the project is heading in a direction, and anyone can notice that, for example, I've got this little lighting system on the right, there are no tests being done, the action is to instantly stop, escalate, make sure everyone gets on the same page, that tests are necessary because it was defined at the beginning. One of the quality metrics is these minimum tests in UAT, in develop, whatever it is, whatever it may be. Or if someone notices that there's absolutely no documentation and they cannot figure out what people did 2 months ago and they desperately need to know, that is something that action needs to be taken. You need to push back and you need to make sure that everyone's on the same page with that. It's important when you do push back, to do it with facts. You need to say, we need X information. We need X amount of time to do it. We need X amount of resources. It's also just incredibly important to bring receipts. The document, you must document throughout to be able to do this. You must have an audit trail. It's going to help absolutely everyone involved if there's a clear audit trail from the start to the end of the project, and even halfway in between, you should have documentation and an audit trail for everything that's happened before in the project, and a concrete plan with what's going to go next. Just before I wrap up, just wanted to touch on some common pitfalls. One of them is over-engineering. I've talked a lot about planning everything, making sure that absolutely everything is documented, written down. You can go too far with it. You must be able to strike a balance, whether is it over-engineering or is it very careful planning. Now, I will say with over-engineering, you must engineer not just for the current project, but the future. It's a very, very difficult line to walk. Misalignment with stakeholders, that, as I've mentioned many times, it comes back to feedback loops. The more feedback loop, the more frequent, the more effective feedback loops you have, the more you will be aligned with stakeholders. And if there is a misalignment at any point, it will be fixed in the quickest possible way by having these feedback loops. Just as I said, plan for long-term scalability. Whatever project you're working on at the moment is likely part of a much larger one and will likely change down the line. You need to build everything in a modular fashion so that it's easy. You make it easy for yourself a year down the line. Ballooning technical debt, that's what I'm talking about there is mainly too many quick fixes in the interest of speed. After a while, it balloons to a point where you need to spend months and weeks or months just trying to fix the patches that you have previously enacted. So having a detailed and up-to-date technical debt list in your documentation somewhere that everyone can very easily access and add to is incredibly important, just so everyone has visibility as to how many corners you're actually cutting and how much that's going to cost you in the future. It's important to keep that in check and invest time when you can and when you need to shrink that technical debt list. And lastly, is just to follow data governance, the industry or company standards, whatever those may be. You need to have some sort of protocols. If something goes wrong, you need to be able to you need to be able to prevent some of these very, very common issues as well. If Snowflake is down for a few hours, you need to be able to reassure your stakeholders that when it comes back up, you won't have lost all your data, and so on and so on. making sure that developers can't accidentally drop databases, having correct permissions, having correct security around all your data is very important. And just a quick summary then. The challenge, fast versus right, the balancing act that we're all trying to juggle every day. It comes down to strong foundations. You need a clear goal. You need a narrow scope. You need to make sure everyone's on the same page. You need some robust standards that includes testing, documented modeling, upfronting a lot of the planning. The planning needs to be done early. It will help you avoid so many issues down the line and resolve problems that you may have had. You're just going to completely solve with some careful planning. Use a proven framework, Agile, whatever it may be, as long as it works for you and as long as you have those feedback loops and that inter-team communication. Choosing the right automation tool, again, really careful planning needs to be done. You need to choose the right one. You need to choose the one that's going to work for you, not going to cause more work for you. And absolutely, don't trade short-term speed for long-term sustainability. Long-term sustainability and quality is incredibly important. Shortcuts, although essential sometimes, need to be used with care. And that's everything I have. If anyone has any question, or Neil, if you want to read out the...
Thank you, Fran. Got one question in there from Will about any tips on managing the debt list.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because you need to invest time at some point to solve the tech lift. If it becomes long enough, you will then just have to dedicate an entire project and a couple of weeks to solving it. So anytime you've got time, constantly reprioritizing all your tasks, including the ones in your backlog. If at any point, if I go back to this matrix, they become high value for whatever reason, they were low value before, they become high value, reprioritize them, and making sure that everyone on the team is aware of them at all time, that they can very easily access them whenever they want, so that if the opportunity arises to tackle one of them, or situation change and now one must be tackled, that everyone knows what they are, and everyone can take initiative in saying, oh, actually, while I've been assigned this task, I know this other task is very similar in a tech debt. Let me loop that one in as well. It will save a bit of time. Other than that, you just need to try and find the time for it, essentially. And being a little bit smart about when that time is going to help out a lot.
I can't agree more there, Fran. I think also another little trick you can do is to put the budget in 10% of each sprint as bug fixing or debt pay down time, and work your way through it slowly. It's very difficult to get dedicated weeks from the customer to do it, your end user to just work on closing down debt. So it's one of those sort of slow burner things running always in the background, and you're always going to have debt in there because of pressures to deliver. Mm-hmm. I think I agree with you very much. Got another question here about, do we have a structured template for wikis that can help with organizing a project? So I think every project's different from our point of view.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
But if you want to reach out to us and speak, we've got several versions we've used on projects, and we tend to stick them in the DevOps or the Jira environment, or to manage the project by. But it depends what the customer wants in there, where we can store. Yeah. So Fran, do you want to add to that? And you've used them, yeah. So
I think you pretty much covered it.
I think it's about discipline as well, making sure you fill it in, because it's very easy to create a structure and then do nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? From KM, it says, what have you found to be the best way to implement feedback loops with stakeholders? So, especially when milestones aren't hit in time.
Yeah, well, that's difficult. As I said, the three main ones that I've used is actually they're right here: demos, as frequently as you possibly can, sprint reviews at the end of every sprint, just to make sure everyone is aware of what went well, what didn't go well, what's still to do, what has been done, and getting something to UAT as quickly as possible will weed out a lot of issues. Stakeholders know what they're looking for, you would hope at least, and they can point out something you may have overlooked a lot quicker than you can. So as long as you build small, get something to UAT that they can look at, and have as frequent demos as you possibly can, sprint reviews on a scheduled manner, is going to try and avoid that, as going to be able to create this feedback loops as much as possible, essentially. And the consistency is key as well. Is if you have the same meeting, or not the same meeting, but the meeting with the same people every week or every other week, it really helps build that rapport. Everyone understands everything a little bit more every week, and by the end of it, they're able to give much more detailed feedback. So building that pattern is very important as well.
Yeah, very much agree. Thanks, Fran.